I don't want to die in a rest stop bathroom. The four of us were on our way back from Kansas City when we saw the sign for a rest stop, which also informed us that there would be nothing beyond it but empty farmland for the next 80 miles. My best friend Faye had wanted to take me somewhere, a distraction, something so I wouldn't be sitting alone in an empty house, surrounded by pictures, trinkets, constant reminders of the new hole in my life. We figured we'd make a big trip out of it, and invited Judy and Candace, our other friends from college. We would have never been on that road if it weren't for me. That means that what happened is my fault. When we pulled up, Judy took one look at the place before uttering a firm, "Absolutely not." She waited in the car while the rest of us headed inside. I wonder how long ago that was now. It's hard to track the passage of time here when there's no way to tell day from night. Judging by how hungry I am, I'd guess that a week must have passed by now. I just hope she didn't come looking for us. Candace ran ahead of Faye and I, darted into the first bathroom stall, only to let out a sharp scream the moment the door slammed closed behind her. I knocked and asked if she was okay, but nothing but a heavy silence greeted me. When I realized that I couldn't see her feet underneath, I hesitantly pushed open the still unlocked door. Instead of a stall, it opened into a dark hallway. Candace was nowhere to be seen. Faye and I stepped through it gingerly, yelping in surprise when the door banged shut behind us. When I turned and opened it again, instead of the dull metal sink that had been across from it when we came in, there was only a large and dimly lit tiled room. Bizarrely shaped ceramic fixtures unlike anything I'd ever seen, snaked along the walls and across the floor. Confused, I closed the door again. Open, a wall-to-wall tiled expanse so massive that it went on far beyond my line of sight. Close. Open. A small stall with just a single red-tinged drain centered in the middle. Close. Open. A room filled with broken sinks, mounted haphazardly along the walls, dripping foul-smelling water. Close. I became increasingly frantic as I pointlessly repeated the cycle, only Candace calling out to us in the distance, and Faye running towards the source of the sound, shook me out of it. It felt wrong. The voice almost sounded like a cheap recording stuck on repeat, always moving further away from us until the narrow hallway ended in a poorly lit area, with just a row of stalls. Candace called out from one of them, and Faye followed. The door nearly closing between us before I managed to catch up. We found ourselves in yet another windowless room, the only illumination coming from the dim lights, casting a yellowish glow on the floor-to-ceiling navy blue tiles. Candace was gone, leaving behind only silence. I demonstrated what I'd learned to Faye, that once a door closed, there was no telling what could be on the other side when it opened again. We knew we couldn't risk becoming separated, to lose each other, possibly forever. We used our purse straps and a key leash to connect ourselves at the waist. Every so often, we'd hear Candace again, whispering strings of nonsense. Sometimes a faint, "Please, no." The tone of the voice, the tinge of fear that permeated through it, chilled me. Faye was always the optimist. She was still convinced we were hearing our friend and would sharply change direction towards the sound. Something told me that wherever, whatever the voice was coming from, it was probably for the best that we never encountered it. I didn't know how to tell Faye that I could feel that Candace was gone. We were the only people remaining. No matter how many doors we tried, we still never knew if we were any closer to finding the exit, or, something I tried to avoid thinking about, if there was one at all. Many opened into rooms of those strange, otherworldly fixtures and pipes, so familiar yet at the same time, so alien. We couldn't tell if we'd been there before. For a while, In each new area we stepped into, we left items from our purses. Eventually a shoe, a scarf. We thought it would help us ground ourselves, something to indicate where we'd already been. But all that managed to do was extinguish almost all of the remaining hope I had left. Even after we went through what felt like hundreds of doors, we never saw any of those items again. As all those alien rooms began to blur together, every so often, they would begin to drift away towards the distant whispering that we never could quite seem to elude. I could tell from the look in her eyes when they'd dart towards something I couldn't see. She was no longer interested in finding a way out. She'd given up on that. She was looking for something else entirely. I'd nearly given up myself, only going through the motions because it was far better than the alternative. When finally, one door opened into something I'd fear I'd never see again. Sunlight. I desperately tried to step through, but Faye firmly planted herself in the hallway and refused to move. She found us. Spoken softly, dreamily. I looked over my shoulder, telling Faye that no one was there, but she wouldn't budge. Instead, she turned her back to me, addressing the darkness. "Hi." She giggled. Frustrated, I gripped the doorframe and tried to use all my remaining strength to pull us through it. It should have been enough to move us both since I had height and weight on my side. She started thrashing and screaming something, but I was focused on the warmth of the sun on my face, how it illuminated the wall to ceiling tiles around us. Before that moment, I'd nearly lost all hope of ever leaving that place. And then, Faye yanked me backwards so hard that I felt helpless as the rays of sunlight got further and further away. My shoeless feet couldn't find purchase on the slick tile, and eventually the cold metal handle of the door slipped from my fingers. It slammed shut, taking the light, the promise of escape, along with it. It was only after the door closed that she stopped pulling. The line went slack. We were so fucking close. I just remember yelling in frustration. My back still turned because I was so pissed off that I couldn't even bear to look at her. My words weren't kind. I'll regret them for however long I have left. Although, I wonder if she even heard them all, because when I finally turned to face her, the strap around my waist ended in frayed, blood-soaked fabric. The rest of it, and Faye herself, were gone. If I had been alone here, I would have simply sat and tried the same door repeatedly, conserved my energy. But I'm not. Alone, I mean. Every so often, I hear their voices floating down the halls, sometimes distorted, merging together to form an awful cacophony. The words are often meaningless, although Faye's final utterances sometimes make their way into rotation. For so long, I knew better than to follow the source, so it would instead pursue me. I kept telling myself I'd find a way out, but no matter how fast I moved, how many doors I went through, I've never felt those rays of sunlight again. Sometimes, as I dragged my feet across the tiles, dazed, my mind would drift, unable to escape the vacuum, the emptiness in the air, a constant reminder that my friends really, truly are gone. I finally come to accept that I'm never leaving this place. I'm so tired of the endless, lonely wandering. I've had plenty of time to think, perhaps too much. I sit, slumped against the cool tile wall, exhausted, when I hear Faye's giggle in the darkness again. This time, I made no effort to evade. A part of me is actually glad, truly relieved she finally found me. "Hi," I repeated back with a smile.